This is the story of my first flight aboard the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, traveling on All-Nippon Airways Flight 1075 from San Jose, California to Narita Airport in Tokyo, Japan. I arrived at the airport plenty early to watch the inbound aircraft, which arrived about 20 minutes late. Having grown up in the San Jose area and able to remember the days when the airport was a much smaller operation, it was exciting to see this cutting-edge plane regularly scheduled to fly here. ANA operates from Terminal A. Now nearly a quarter century old, I still recall Terminal A as the new terminal compared to the 1960s era Terminal C that was only recently demolished. ANA has a small counter space, but lots of employees working the check-in. As a Star Alliance Gold level member, there was no wait, and I was efficiently checked in by a very friendly agent. Boarding pass in hand, a window seat in the second row of economy class, I headed up the escalator to the security screening area. Even though this is the older terminal, the airside area looks very fresh, with lots of shops and restaurants. Today's flight operated from Gate 15, one of two gates connected to the international arrivals area. The gate offered a good view of the Dreamliner, even though you did have to look through two sets of windows. It is a unique-looking airplane, in my opinion, one whose proportions make it look smaller than it actually is, but it certainly is a graceful plane. After taking plenty of pictures, something lots of other waiting passengers were also doing, I headed to the club at SJC, a private lounge that ANA uses for its premium customers. Located upstairs from the departure gate, the lounge offers limited views of the tarmac, but has two large seating areas, workspaces, and a decent selection of food and beverage. They also have a single shower room, so I took the opportunity to freshen up a bit before the flight. As boarding time neared, I headed back downstairs to the gate. ANA operates the San Jose service with a very low-density configuration, only 158 passengers in a plane that can easily seat more than 220. Because of this, the gate area was not crowded. A friendly flight attendant welcomed me on board. Business class, divided into two cabins, seats 46 people in alternating rows of 1-1-1 and 1-2-1 seating. All seats have direct aisle access and lots of privacy. A small economy class cabin of just 3 rows sits behind business class. In another of its configurations, ANA has premium economy seating in this area. The design of the overhead bins offers plenty of room to store rollaboard bags, although with this few seats, everyone had plenty of storage space. ANA uses fixed shell seats in economy class, where instead of reclining back into the row behind you, your seat slides forward. I like this arrangement because my personal space remains fixed. With 33 to 34 inches of seat pitch, ANA's Dreamliner offers several more inches of legroom than most of its competitors. The in-flight entertainment system is an on-demand system with touchscreen controls. The selection of movies, TV shows, games, and music is extensive and international. It's plenty to keep you occupied for your flight. Boarding was complete in about 15 minutes, and soon enough we had pushed back and the safety demo was complete. As the Rolls-Royce engine spooled up, the ANA ground staff lined up to send us off with a wave.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to take off. Please make sure that your seatbelt is securely fastened. Thank you.
Our departure followed an interesting path. We leveled off at about 5,000 feet and maintained that altitude across the south end of the San Francisco Bay towards Woodside. Meanwhile, aircraft approaching San Francisco were circling wide on our left, cutting behind us to line up with runways 28 left and right. As we approached Half Moon Bay, we resumed our climb, joining other westbound planes across the Pacific. About 40 minutes after departure, in-flight service began with hot towels, real cloth towels, not paper ones, followed by a beverage service with snacks. The crew was friendly and helpful. An in-seat menu card described the general service, while the specific meal choices for today's flight could be read on the in-flight entertainment system, and also on a laminated card that the flight attendants had on their cart. I chose the Japanese option, a chicken teriyaki dish served over rice with a side of cold soba or buckwheat noodles. The portion was generous, and the food was pretty tasty for airplane food. Afterwards, flight attendants distributed Haagen-Dazs ice cream, a simple and satisfying dessert. After lunch, I walked around the mostly full cabin. You can see the windows, which are about 30% larger than conventional airplane windows. Instead of shades, the windows use LCD controls for different levels of shading. You can see the windows at various settings. The rear cabin has 11 additional rows of economy class seating. The galley and entrance to the crew rest area are at the rear of the cabin. Three lavatories are in the middle of the economy class cabin, located by doors 3 left and 3 right. The lavatories are high-tech on ANA, featuring lots of buttons, including for the automated bidet in case you need to wash your bum afterwards. When you press the flush button, the toilet seat is automatically lowered. The lavatories were kept spotlessly clean, with flight attendants tidying them throughout the flight. The LCD shading for the windows is interesting. At its darkest of 5 settings, you can still see through the window. Mid-flight, which was still full daylight outside, the cabin was dark, although not as much as with the physical window shade. Snacks and beverages were available in the galley throughout the flight, and about 2.5 hours before landing, just a little early in my estimation, a second meal service was offered. I had the chicken cacciatore, which again was pretty tasty. One feature of the Dreamliner is that its cabin is pressurized to the equivalent of a 6,000-foot elevation, instead of at 8,000 feet as is found in most airliners. Also, humidity levels are slightly higher, about 15%, versus less than 5% normally. My impression was that the cabin was a bit more comfortable than normal. I travel frequently across the Pacific and find that I get very dried out. Now, the effect could have just been psychological, but on this flight, I felt less dehydrated. The rest of the flight was smooth as we descended into an overcast northern Japan and landed on time at Narita. My 9-hour, 45-minute flight aboard the ANA Dreamliner left me with a positive impression of both the airplane and the airliner, both of which I'll seek out again soon. I hope you enjoyed this trip report, and your comments are welcome. feel free to visit my blog at www.christau.net.